I like partnering and aligning with fellow creatives and fellow psychics, mystics, intuitives, or in the case of my friend Felicity here, spiritual alchemists. So, without further ado, she has joined me today. I think we've got a great topic to share because this question does come up anytime I teach or I mentor, which I believe you do too. And so I think it's a great topic to pick today of basically how to find or attract, I like that word better, your vibe tribe, like your soul family, your chosen family, whatever you want to call them or resonate with them. So, welcome. Thanks for being here with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to talk about this today.
Anytime. I know we both kind of carry some of that little excited childlike fairy energy. So, it's
Absolutely.
it's quite refreshing. So I love partnering you with anything. And we did a small gallery up in the Colorado mountains, and that was so much fun. And I knew then that was a wise choice because how we got connected was through my Aunt Patricia. Everything's through Aunt Patricia. I swear.
She's the
She is
connector.
she is a major connector. So if you're watching, thank you, Auntie. Uh,
Yes, thank you. Thank
she's in
you.
she's in Egypt right now.
Random fact, the last time I saw her, she gifted me sand from Egypt. Thank you again for that.
I have some too. It's one of my most pres, blah, blah. Let me try that again. Treasured gifts she's ever given me. So, yeah, I can align with that too. So, but I love Egypt ever since I was a little girl. I've always
Yeah, same.
had an affinity for that. And I think that's true for a lot of people when I talking about your vibe tribe, when I talk to people who are really looking for those connections, the authentic connections. Because let's just be real, is when you go out there and you're trying to find like-minded or spiritual minded, it's with anything else, you're going to have positive and negative. And
Yes.
even in circles, I've been doing this for, I don't know, 25 years or so, 22, 25, somewhere around in there. That there are some in the mix that you're not going to mesh with, or that come with so much ego, they're hard to be in the room with, or, those sort of things. So, especially now, I've noticed even with expanding and upgrading myself by choice, um, you know, there's even still some friends that I don't find myself aligning with, and that it's a natural process. It's something I felt really bad about in the beginning because I'm like, oh, why don't they like me? Why don't they hang out with me anymore? What's going on? What's happening? And it's not that at all. It's just different wavelengths, just different
Yes.
trajectory. Just it's
Yes.
different. That's all. And not making yourself wrong about that. So I don't know how you do it, but how I usually do when I walk in a room, it's truly a test for me of I can read all the energy in the room. Now my test is, am I reading their energy exactly where they are in that moment, or am I reading their potential? Because
Ooh,
that's gotten me in so much trouble. Uh,
yep.
Almost every relationship I've ever had, I'm based off their potential. Like I see their highest self instead of their moment right now where they are. So, and I usually tell people this, like any kind of relationship, friendship, romantic, platonic, doesn't matter. Um, if you meet them exactly where they are, right here, right now, and they didn't change one iota, nothing about them changed, can you be in any sort of relationship with them? If the answer is yes, awesome, then you're probably meant to be friends. If the answer is no, then you might want to skittle along. So,
Right.
kind of thing. So, how about you? Like let's say you go to a new group. So, speaking to the wide audience that might be listening and finding or attracting your vibe tribe, what works for you? Like when you meet new people, like are there tools you use? What's your process?
So I have this thing of whenever I leave my home, I'm always feeling like I'm on an adventure. And so I'm having fun. I'm full of thrill. That inner child comes out of joy. So whatever I'm doing, I find joy. So when I come into a room and I meet people, I'm just so excited to connect. I probably would relate to puppy energy. So when I go up to someone and I'm just so excited and hi, and I could read their dissonance from me, then I instantly know, okay, I'm still going to be loving me. I'm not going to dim that light. But at the same time, I recognize I might be a bit too much for them. I respect that. So I'll just distance myself a little. If they speak, I will definitely speak, but I won't go out of my way to engage or learn anything about them. I literally just put like a screen door there. And then there's people in the room that are just attracted to me and want to come and talk. And then I engage and talk with them. But I have to admit, I can't help but notice the people in the room that nobody's talking to and they're completely overlooked. I can't help but like hone in on that person and want to talk to them and be their friend.
I do the
Because
same
I
thing.
know too many times where I wanted someone to be my friend. And so now it's just like I go up, hi. And typically start with something I like about them. And it's a genuine compliment because I like it. And mostly they go along with it. Sometimes they're a little skeptical, like, what's she trying to sell me? Nothing other than a genuine connection.
Right.
That's it.
And I think I love that about you because I love doing that too because I used to be that person. I would be the person that, before I found the true me, like comfortable me, my ex used to hate this. We'd go into a party and I would always want to find like the back door to go in. I didn't want to go in the front entrance. I didn't want to be seen. And I would I would find like the darkest, dimmest corner and I would get me a drink of something and I would go sit in that darkest, dingiest corner because I'm like, oh, don't talk to me. Well, let me just sit here, drink, people watch, and be like, you know. So I guess I was like a little mouse with a piece of cheese,
Cheese is good.
right? Um, so I love that you do that because back in the day, that would have been me that you came up to because I used to do that. Now anymore, I don't. I think it was because being a kid that was abused and being a kid that really, I didn't know my voice until honestly I moved away. And I found myself that I couldn't be comfortable. Like I didn't know how to be comfortable in my own skin. And I think that might be true for a lot of spiritual people as they're developing, as they're expanding, or somebody who's brand new to it. Maybe they started having prophetic dreams and all of a sudden they're like, wow, I think I'm either expanding or awakening my psychic abilities. I might be a medium, I might be channeler, whatever it is. I think it's different for all of us, just like
Yes.
fingerprints and DNA. It's your own unique experience that I think sometimes people are a little scared, fearful to share or talk about that in their normal friend realm. So,
So
um,
true.
it might lead them down, a pathway to find spiritual people. So, because I know I've had a couple of friends from high school that when I started posting my psychic and mystic stuff, they're like, "What are you, psychic now?" And I'm like, well, always. I just hid it because growing up a very strict religious family, we were Southern Baptist. I'm not because I don't align with that, but people who do, that's their journey. It just wasn't my journey. And so I just never talked about it. Like growing up, I always knew. I just didn't share. And so friends that I've had since high school, they're just dumbfounded, like, who are you? And I'm like, the real me, the me that you never got to see. I didn't show people. I didn't open up. Um, because I think it was just so much fearful of they're gonna think I'm a freak or they're gonna think I'm a weirdo or they're gonna think I'm a okay, so what? So what? Let people think that because um it's a matter of me being authentic to me. I answer to me. I
Yes.
answer to my creator. I don't answer to anyone else. And I think, especially as women, we feel like we have to fit in a certain box and, or multiple boxes with so many lids, you never find the right Tupperware lid? I mean, it's just, I think it's nuts. So, anyone listening, I hope this is an invitation for you to break outside of any box that either you put yourself in or you allowed to be put in, where you become more beautifully, uniquely you.
I agree. And I would say that even if you think that it might be far off in the future, a definite goal to have for yourself is not to go by what other people are labeling or trying to put you in any box. For you to not even label yourself, not even label yourself, just to be completely open, especially if you've just started, because you're going to be navigating so many different avenues. You know this with going with through a spiritual awakening and going through the process. You've been doing this for years now, and so you understand that it's like the game will change, so you don't want to just label yourself as this. The game's going to change.
And if you do, like, let's say you get comfortable, Spirit, universe, creator, source is going to come in and take you out of your comfort zone because that's really where those juicy bits of growth are. Because if you stay stuck or stagnant in that one monotone lane, or you put your blinders on and that's all you see, you're self-limiting yourself. All that is really is a form of self-sabotage.
So
So
true.
it falls into that category of, um, why label yourself? Like, yeah, somebody who's gay, I'm part of the queer community. That is a label society gives me, but it's not something that I'm right out of the gate that I'm going to tell people. Now most people just pick it up, but that's fine too. I mean, it is what it is. So, but it's not something that I is a big part of my identity. Being spiritual, being a psychic, a mystic, intuitive, medium, channeler, those are more of my identity because those are the ones that I resonate with the most because I'm in service to humanity. I'm in service to people expanding, growing, challenging themselves to be a better version of them. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in a position where we're at now in the United States, where we've got leadership that it's not about any people. It's self-preservation or it's promotion or and I don't care about party. I don't care about division. That's what's wrong with society is we can't be divided. We have to come together because when did leadership stop being about for the people? So it's the same thing in your own life. When did you stop being for you? When did you stop being your own best cheerleader?
Your
Trace
own
it
best
back.
friend.
Yeah, exactly. Just trace it back to its origination. So when I do shamanic work with people, I try to get them to the source of where that shadow part is, or the source of where they're, let's just say they have horrible negative self-talk. To get to that origination, well, usually it's something they heard. So that goes back to programming. And programming, just like you program a computer, you can also control alt delete, or you can factory reset it. This is what this time is great for, is factory reset you and how you want to be. A lot of times what helps with that is take yourself out of your situation. So let's say you're stuck in a 9 to 5 job and you're stuck in a relationship that is depleting instead of thriving. And then maybe you have a circle of friends, they just don't get you, kind of thing. Well, that's three things now that are impacting your daily life. How can you thrive? So, picking scenarios or situations, maybe go take an independent vacation. Go get away, go to the mountains, go to the beach, go to the whatever, that time away for yourself because it's so important just to be alone with yourself and your thoughts. Unplug, it's fine, check in with home, do whatever you got to do, but then consciously choose to unplug so that you can really get connected with yourself and your thoughts.
Yes.
We don't,
Intentionally pick yourself. I agree.
yeah.
Intentionally set it up. And you also hit something else, which is really important. You said to take yourself somewhere.
Mhm.
Like when you shift the environment and you remove yourself and you cut off all energy and all ties, and you just have a moment to yourself to decompress,
Mhm.
you've limited so much stuff that was distracting you and picking up other things that were distracting you, picking up other frequency that was distracting you.
Mhm.
And it really gives you a chance to set your own energy on yourself. Oftentimes, when you do develop a gift and you are trying to figure out, like, what is this? What's going on? Like, where is this coming from? Am I crazy? Who can I talk to about this? I tried talking to so and so and they thought I was nuts or they thought I was crazy. The best thing to do is just to sit down with yourself and literally speak out loud. Hear yourself speak versus ruminating on the thought. Because when you're stuck in that loop of question, you're not going to receive the answer. When
Mhm.
you speak it aloud and you hear it and you hear the frequency, you hear the tone, you hear the vibe, sometimes, I shit you not, you're able to answer your own question
Mhm.
and move it along versus sitting and ruminating.
Because you're going within. And that's what all this is about. So, like Southern Fried Psychics, I mean, I'll be honest, is I had this idea about 20 years ago, but it was a download. Like literally, I had just done a shamanic journey and I think it was in a shamanic journey. Anyway, regardless, um, it was a download that I got from Spirit about this project. Now, it's morphed a little bit since then, but um, it was introducing basically the concept of embracing and awakening and expanding their own spirituality through shamanic journey then. But now it's really about even a shamanic journey. You're going within. That's the big picture, is going within. And when people have so many distractions in their life like that, that's an opportune time to shift the energy. You got to be willing to do that. Take yourself out of that setting and put yourself into something new because you're retraining that brain. You are literally giving your space to breathe. You're on the plane, the oxygen mask is dropped down, you're putting the mask on yourself.
Yes.
Because if you're not doing that, then you got to take a look at that. That's a form of self-sabotage. Why won't you be alone with your thoughts? What has happened? Has there been some trauma that you're just not willing to face? If that's so, that's okay. You'll do this in your own time when you're ready. The point of this is not to push you to do it. The point of view is to consider, are you ready? Are you willing? Can you give yourself that gift? Because it really is a gift when you allow yourself to grow and expand. Because that's a
And
human must. What we
seriously, there's like the law of change. Everything is going to change. So you yourself have to change. And you'll notice that when you're in the process of changing, you no longer want to be with those same people anymore or be on those same have those same type of conversations anymore. Like this is a prime example. Back the old Felicity used to love gossip. I
Mm,
would gossip all the time, or I would want to find out like who's married to who and like, oh my gosh, what's going on with them, right? And it was just one of those things where I grew up around my family. My family, they are. It is what it is. So it's gotten to a point now where when I do have new friendships, that's one of the first boundaries is I don't gossip. I don't do that. And it's a shift. Well, because I've shifted and I don't do that, my friends don't do that.
awesome.
They're more of how can we build each other up versus let's tear each other down to feel better.
Mhm.
And it was a matter of myself changing, myself stopping that because I healed that. Then I was able to attract that. But I myself had to heal that. I had to go through the muck of recognizing, wow, I do this. Well, why do I do that? Well, I do that because I don't love myself. I don't love myself and I'm not happy. And I see someone else happy and I am so jealous or envious, whatever. I know it's one of the two of that person. And I just want to tear them down, right? But in reality, what am I going to attract? I'm going to attract other people that are also like that. And then you sync up.
I know that's just an example of like the mud and the muck. So don't choose to move yourself out of mud and muck into another mud pile. You want to go where the light is. You want to go where people will encourage you to just be you. And you're going to have off days.
Right.
Everybody's human. I can tell you there's sometimes I'm showing up and I'm like, wow, I'm not the best version of me today. But I used to state the obvious. I usually go, guys, I have a headache today, but I've signed up for the bigger picture. So just bear with me. 99% of the time, somebody's up, oh, let me give you some Reiki. Oh, let me do some light language for you. Oh, let me do this. Usually my friends will do that. Now that's been my biggest challenge to grow too is learning how to receive because I'm such a giver. I give, 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 give so many times in my life now where I had nothing left. And learning how to recharge myself, reboot, restart, all those things, which, I'm not being down on myself about that. I'm stating the obvious of that had its purpose. I had to learn, oh, I have a tank that also needs to be filled. And if I
Yes,
have
yes,
reserves in my tank, how dare me to give all that away to others because then I have no benefit to anyone, especially myself. It's the same thing with oxygen mask. You know,
right.
you're not going to help anybody else thrive if you're not breathing. And so that's been one of my biggest lessons, my hardest lessons in this life of being human, is knowing when I'm getting low or when I'm getting close to empty and I need to recharge. And it's up to me to how I need to voice that. So I hope that anyone listening, regardless if you're in a relationship or not, because you definitely have some relationships, even if they're just platonic friendships, of saying what you need when you need it. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to share of
Yes.
I'm having a really bad day today. I just need a hug, or I'm having a really bad day today. Just let me be cranky and I'll be great tomorrow. However you need to show up. But be responsible for your energy. So that's the caveat kind of to this is let's say I show up and I'm really cranky. I didn't sleep. I haven't had coffee. Maybe I'm hungry, which I don't usually get hangry, but I'm trying to throw in all these references that people will relate. So that's three things, that are kind of three strikes you're out kind of thing. I have to be responsible for my energy. So let's say I'm in conversation with my friend Felicity and something comes out of my mouth and it's really snarky or kind of sarcastic. It's up to me to clean that up because I'm not a sarcastic human being naturally. And so it would be up to me to be responsible for my energy and go, you know what, Felicity, they came out really wrong. I'm tired. I have not slept enough. I haven't even had coffee yet. I guarantee you, knowing my friend here, she'd be like, "Well, then
Yep.
go get you some coffee," or "Well, hang
Yep.
on, let me give you a hug." Maybe you always either ask permission or you always ask, "Well, let's you like solve it," kind of thing. But that's because you know me, and you know that probably 98% of the time I'll never ask for what I need. I'm learning. I'm learning. I'll never ask what I need, but you naturally pick that up. And that just goes to show our symbiotic relationship of knowing one another and also respecting the boundaries that are energetically there.
And that we both pour
Yeah. Yeah, it's
versus having that person that just drains you and takes.
right.
Like I'm sure you've had in the past where like you and I, we can have discussions on topics. You and I go over a variety of things. Every time we link up, it's like, hey, and then we're just talking in dialogue. But
Right.
I'm sure you've had people in your past where you link up with them and it's always just a drain. Like
Mhm.
you said, have responsibility for your emotions, but the person is just always in a foul mood, lashing out, as you said, sarcastic. And then you're on the receiving end and you're like, wow, every time I have a correspondence with you, it's always you talking about every negative thing going on in your life, but there's never any solutions.
Right.
And then you're drained and complete depleted. It's almost like this has happened to me as well, where I would feel guilt for being happy when they were miserable. So then
Oh,
I would dim myself for being happy, and then I would, console them and share space with them and try. And they're going through their process, and then they just want me to continually do that.
mhm.
Where it's like, I can help you a couple times through, but I can't always be that person that you go running to talk about this horrible instance that just happened. Where's the self-regulation in that?
Right. Yeah. Because it's okay to be in that shadow aspect, but it's
Yes,
not okay to
absolutely.
marinate in it and stay in it because that's what you choose. Because it is a choice. And that's an example of being responsible for your energy of that to me, I'm familiar with those kinds of friendships, is it's all about them. Like every time there's a conversation, they're dominating that conversation with all their negative. Well, anything that's in the light, it gets enough exposure to the dark, it starts to dim. And that's where that guilt comes in, and you want to start dimming your light. So really that's opportunity for us as expanding spiritual beings of we either need to say something to that person of I don't know if you realize, but every time we meet you're really stuck in shadow, and I really love to see you come out on the other side of this. So I will be there for you as much as I possibly can, but this is so overwhelming for me that if you're okay with it, let's pick another time maybe where you can shine brighter, or another time where you're not so um I don't want to say stagnant or stuck. That's the words I almost use. Where you're so overwhelmed in the darkness that's in and around your life. And I want to remind you that you're a light first.
Yes,
Something like
that
that.
part. That
Because
part.
I don't want to have a friendship where I feel like I have to end that friendship because I'm giving them space to be as dark as they need to be. Because you have to deal with the shadow first before you can see your own light. But there's always light, even at the end of the tunnel. There's always some light, even in the dark. That's how we know what the dark is. We've seen the light. And you don't recognize the light unless you've been in the dark. Okay.
So
So
true.
as people who have experienced great trauma in our past, I want to invite them to take whatever space they need. I'm not making you wrong, whatever, but I'm putting in place healthy boundaries for me by using my words and not projecting it onto you, being responsible for my energy, for you to have that space to be however you need to be. And then we can come back when you can be a little more responsible for your energy. That's the kind of friendships that we need, I know, is knowing you. But even as human beings, it needs to be a give and a take. Because the same thing, if somebody's got friends and all their friends, it's always about them, then they're probably stuck in a savior complex. Maybe as a kid, sometimes.
Yes. Where they're constantly fixing everything for
Yeah.
everyone else. And since they're putting all of that creative energy into everyone else, they
Mhm.
have none of it for themselves.
Which is exactly how I used to be. So, as a child of trauma, I was always operating, and this is before I really started diving into spiritual work and taking classes and courses and really working with myself like I'm a muscle. Um, is I used to be that. In fact, I love my best friend for it because she's an Aquarian, and you can always account on my Aquarians and my Aries to tell me you're doing that thing again. And that thing is, I'm trying to fix their problems because I always wanted somebody to do that for me as a kid because I'm over here
Yep.
stuck in trauma going, is somebody coming to save me? Because this sucks, kind of thing.
Right?
So I love both of them for that because I know they will shoot me straight, which is the kind of friendship I want. Don't sugarcoat something. Don't blow smoke up my butt. I need to know the truth and just give it to me. Let me be responsible over here for my emotions and my feelings. And then it's up to me. Am I going to have a reaction to it or am I going to process it and then take an action if there's an action for me to take? Big differences there.
Huge difference, huge difference. Even compared to me, that's a huge difference because you actually went about it in a very emotional, mature way, like speaking to that person and giving them that chance of shadow. For
Mm.
me, if I saw the repeated habit or repeated behavior, I would just cut that person off and then never speak to them again.
I
I'm
have
sure
I have
there's
it
plenty of people
happen.
out there that are like, wait, what just happened here?
Mhm. I have had to do that before. I mean, I had a relationship like that where she was extremely toxic, abusive, raging alcoholic. And that was something where I don't usually burn a bridge unless I absolutely have to. But when I found myself in domestic violence in 2016 and 2017, it was a have to situation. And normally I wouldn't because how I met her was I saw her potential instead of seeing exactly where she was and smelling the lies from the get-go and dismissing the red flags. But I was also repeating an old pattern. My dad was dying, who was my original abuser. And even though he changed later in his life, I still had that kid programming in me that was probably a trigger. That I was reliving a situation where I put myself in a situation that was harmful. I put myself in a situation with relationship with an abuser because my original one was dying. So the reason that happened to me and not making anything she did okay, because it's definitely not, but my lesson was to get my self-worth out of it. And so I've spent this entire last 8 years, because 2017 was my last relationship, of working on me because I am not repeating that pattern. I'm not repeating patterns. And if it takes me 25 years, that's what I'm going to do because I had to be happy with me, this person right here. That is the one that gets me up every day, that does the chores in the house every day, that takes my dog out, that is a good friend for other people because I'm filling my own tank first.
So true, so true. And it's also fascinating. I was speaking to a friend about this. I noticed that in life, cycles happen, repeating patterns, right?
Yep.
And the way those patterns repeat, I've noticed, and I don't know if this is going to align with you or not, is that let's say in that first perspective, you were the little girl and your father was the father, right?
Hmm.
And then the next time the cycle repeated, you were the woman, but you were inviting that pattern to repeat. Before you didn't have the control, it was happening, but now this pattern is repeating again. And now you've changed perspectives, you've shifted views now. You're at the same pattern as before, but now you're a different player this time. And are you going to choose the same or are you going to do different? I found that life often repeats those cycles where we change a different player in that scenario. And is that pattern going to, continue or is it going to cease? I've
Right.
noticed that.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, because I think I kind of even did something similar with my mom. Speaking of that, when, in past lives, is I've been her mother in a past life instead of this life. She's my mother. And so the majority of our relationship, I've played the mother. So I've helped her in so many instances. Like my mom, bless her, I love her and thank gosh she's still on this planet. I adore her, but she would get lost in a paper bag. And she knows I'd say this better because I kind of have some directionally challenged stuff myself. So as a kid, I was the one that was opening the map and I was finding the route to get us unlost. And so I always kind of took control of those things. And she worked two, sometimes three jobs. So I was by myself a lot, especially after my sister had moved out. And so I just played the mom. I was cleaning dishes. I was cleaning the house because I was always kind of a little tidy, neat freak. And then I was also cooking when I had no interest in cooking whatsoever. I was the quintessential tomboy. I wanted to be outside playing. But something shifted in me in that moment, and I was like, well, I know how to do this. Not anybody really showed me, but I've seen my mom do it. So I'm like 7 and 8 years old, and now I'm cooking dinner so that mom can have dinner on the table when she comes home.
That is so sweet to me.
I took on the mother role.
Yes, yes.
But I cleaned that up probably about, I don't know, it would have been 2014. So in 2014, I guess 11 years ago, I gave her power back. And that was an example of me being able to clean that up, going, mom, I had this conversation with her. I called her up because I was still living in Colorado. And I said, mom, I have to give you your power and your energy back. I said, because I created a dynamic when I was little that I was the mother and you were the child. And I've been mothering you majority of our adult life. And so it's time for me to give you your power back and for me to take mine back. What it was for me was I was always curious, just curious. I want to see how that works. I want to see this works. And a prime example of that is I don't I have to ask mom what she thinks about it, but here's an example is there'd be a radio that stopped working. I had to take everything apart because I wanted to see the insides. And then in my brain, I'm like, oh, I'm fixing this. It wasn't that. I was thinking I was fixing it. It wouldn't work when I put it back together, but it wasn't working when I took it apart. So I did that with a transistor radio. I did that with a walkie-talkie. I mean, I was always curious. So I think that's how I lead my life is with such a zest and a curiosity, which is also totally fairy energy, just in a different way. I think it's important as people are really trying to find where they align is just go somewhere that you like doing. So if you like to do I don't know, metaphysical stores. Go to a metaphysical store and see what kind of classes they offer, what kind of groups they offer. Miracles of Joy is one of my favorites, but that's because I read there. So I'm really partial. But I also know the energy that this mother and daughter team created for their individual stores, Louisville and Bedford. So they're very responsible for their energy, and I trust them. So I don't have to go in. In fact, I think I even made this comment to them is I never have to go in there and cleanse and clear the space like you usually do for a lot of places where you go, including your own home, because I know the energy's cleared already. It's cleansed and cleared and pured. I feel it. So
I love that because I have to say I have been in places before where I've gotten major migraines by walking in and being in that space, and then I would leave and travel home, and
yeah,
then finally the migraine would go away. And but every single time, and then I would just stop going there,
yeah,
which was such a bummer. But when you go to other spaces, it's such a delight. You walk in, the light shining through, like Green Man Studios, beautiful, beautiful, quaint little spot. But when you walk in, it's just like rays of sunshine, everywhere. I love that. It's
that's
this high
awesome.
vibe that you just really enjoy being in. So I dig that. Definitely going to places that would have the answers that you seek, definitely try looking online for groups. And I think it'd even be fun to go into an area that you're not familiar with,
Yeah,
because then you don't have to have that worry of, oh, is anyone going to see me? That
right.
way you can go and ask the questions that you need, or try to explain to someone what's happening with you in those shops. And they can oftentimes refer you to people that, oh yeah, I know so and so, that's happening, that they are a master at that,
Right.
or they know how to do that, or they have the certificate for that. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you find that you can't be vulnerable with the people you know. Try being vulnerable with a stranger. And you'll see oftentimes they will have the answer you seek, and you can get over that fear of just opening up.
Yeah. And that's a great point of, especially when people might feel a little uncomfortable or they're making themselves or allowing themselves to get uncomfortable out of their comfort zone by going into a metaphysical store to try to meet some like-minded is definitely, let's say you live in Dallas, go to Fort Worth.
I just watched your video the other day on YouTube, and it was talking about how you had that copper ball and that your friend was over and had used it, and she was inspired to go get one. And I was like, huh, I
Uh-huh.
should make one.
Copper is one of the best metals as a starseed, an indigo, a metaphysic person. Copper is a great grounder and conductor of energy. So it's why it's my favorite metal. And it comes up now a lot when I'm leading a shamanic journey circle for people. It comes up a lot where we're either standing in a copper ring or a copper pyramid.
I love that. Those copper pyramids are so cool.
I know, right? So I wished I had one in person. I don't have room for it, but I wished I had one in person that we could do that. In fact, maybe that's something I'll have commissioned in the future, of where we could journey inside that copper pyramid. That would be phenomenal. I would love that experience.
There's a company that makes those to go over your bed.
Uh-huh.
And they have it where the inner joints where everything locks up, you can put whatever crystals you want in there. They have spaces where you can put your own crystals. I want
Yes.
that.
Well, and I have a
So
friend who
bad. Just one time, please.
I have a friend who could probably make it because she's been making copper jewelry, or I shouldn't say jewelry. She makes copper rings. In fact, if it was in within reach, I would show everybody. But she makes them where you can do it like on a crown. You can do it like over your head to shift the energy to move it up and down. I use that one a
That
lot.
is so freaking cool.
And then she has one that's the size of a hula hoop that you can put over your entire body or stand in. But anyway, it's here, hang on. I think I got her card here. But it's my friend Sandy, and she's out toward the Houston area where she makes these. I love that she makes those because it's putting her energy in it. And she's also light language activated, and she does a lot of energy work. She's been a teacher for years. So everything that she is and she embodies, she puts into this copper.
I
And
love that.
oh, you got
I
to have
love that.
purposes. Yeah. It's amazing. So she even has like the smaller one, put it at the base of like your water or whatever, and then your water gets infused with it. Or
Oh, wow.
pull it up and like I call it scanning, scan your bottle with it, by moving it up and down the bottle. That's cool too. Or drink
Scanning. That's
copper.
cool.
Hmm. You can do
That
that.
is so cool.
There's so many ways to challenge yourself and to find your vibe tribe that I hope this conversation has given people the space and the room and the capacity to just go have fun with it. Just go explore, see who you meet. And if you don't, find what you want in a metaphysical store, try Meetup. If you don't find it there, then maybe start your own group.
Yes.
Newbie like-minded spiritual people or something, I'm just making
I need that on a shirt.
kind of brag. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. It's always great to connect with you. I can't wait for our next coffee meet.